Well, howdy. I'm Ron from Helping Horses Heal. And today we're going to address all you uneducated, naive fucking hypocrites out there with your Canadian flag in your bio, so proudly telling the world how you support First Nations here in Alberta because this is their treaty land. Well, you're right, it is fucking treaty land, but none of you have read a fucking treaty now, have you? I have, all fucking three of them, and more than once. But before I get started, I'm going to take the time to disarm every one of you fucking rainbow warriors who's going to come thundering into my fucking comments section, riding your fucking unicorn and telling me that I'm some sort of a fucking racist for the context of this video. I proudly grew up with First Nations people and have lived with and worked with First Nations folks across Western Canada. I have sponsored and taught youth-oriented backcountry horsemanship programs, wilderness survival programs, trapping programs, and farrier programs specifically designed for First Nations youth with hopes of reestablishing their connection to the wilderness and all the joys that lay within. In 2011, after 4 days with no food and water, preparing myself for my adoption ceremony, I was humbly adopted by elders from both the U.S. and Alberta into the Blackfoot Nation. I take this subject very fucking seriously. But you uneducated fucks, you support the treaties, right? This didn't start with the fucking treaties here in Alberta. It started decades before with the establishment of the whiskey forts. Soon a once proud and majestic people became dependent on the white man, living beside the fort and experiencing the horrors of alcoholism. By the time that the treaties came along, they had no fucking choice but to sign. So in 1876, Treaty 6 was signed. And in 1877, Treaty 7 was signed. And then in 1899, Treaty 8 was signed. And every one of those fucking treaties reads verbatim: the Indians inhabiting the district hereinafter describe and define and do by here cede, release, surrender, and yield up to the government of the Dominion of Canada for Her Majesty the Queen and her successors forever, all their rights, titles, and privileges whatsoever to the lands included within the following limits, that is to say. And then they go along to describe the geographical boundaries of each treaty. And following that, they throw this paragraph in just for another kick in the nuts. And also all their rights, titles, and privileges whatsoever to all other lands wherever situated in the Northwest Territories or in any other province or portion of Her Majesty's Dominion situated in being within the Dominion of Canada. Now, if you're Canadian and know anything, there are two crowns in this country, the federal crown and the provincial crown. So here in Alberta, the federal crown owns the federal parks and the federal Indian reserves. The ceded land here in these fucking treaties goes to the provincial crown. So whether you fucking like it or not, they signed their land away. And then they were put on federal Indian reserves. And they had a federal Indian agent put in charge of them and their futures. And that motherfucker, he was the one that decided how much provisions they got. And down south on Treaty 6, he decided how much seed they got. You see, they'd traded their fucking inherent rights to the land for either a cow or a plow, not both. And in the northern part of Alberta, well, that fucking Indian agent, he got to decide for those people on the reserves how much twine they got and how big their fishing net would be thereafter, how many bullets they got that they got to use while he was signing their permission slip and letting them off the reserve for his set amount of time so that they could go to hunt and fish and try to support their families. And dare fucking you be late, because he'd send the Northwest Mounted Police out there to hunt you down like a fucking dog. And it was that same Indian agent working for these treaties that you fucking worship. Well, he was the one that led the authorities around to all the houses with kids so they could be stripped from their fucking parents' arms, kicking and screaming, and put into the residential schools where their culture and their language were beat out of them in horrific fucking ways. I spent time with survivors of residential schools in the backcountry. I proudly share those men fires, and I listened to their horrific stories, and I shared their pain I understand, but you fuckers don't. Start educating yourselves. You want to stand for First Nations? Realize that the only way that they get out of this and have a strong and viable future is the complete abolishment of that fucking Indian Act that has suppressed them for 160 years and the renegotiations of treaties, not under duress and not because they don't understand the ramifications. This time, every word will be understood and the ramifications thereof. It's time for change. We cannot move ahead looking back, and a once proud people cannot regain themselves and reconnect with the earth as they should be by living in the past and wallowing in a pit of self-pity because they feel they're on stolen land when they fail to recognize their ancestors signed it away. I love each and every one of you. Start educating yourself. Stop spewing off your fucking bullshit. If you don't know what you're talking about, keep your fucking mouth shut. Start resisting the fucking evil that's all around us.